So, boys and girls,
Just all the
I am going to share with you a very special Rosh Hashanah story. This story is called The Girl and the Garden. And it's a story about Emma. Do we have any Emmas in the house today? How is that possible in a post-millennial congregation that there are no kids named Emma? If you're Emma, you're either under 8 or over 80. So this is a story about Emma. And when Emma was 4 years old, her mom and her dad said, "Emma, we have to move." Has anyone ever had to move? Moving is hard, right? It can be really exciting, but it's also a little bit sad because you have to leave home to go to a new home. So Emma saw her beautiful new house filled with all of her toys, and she was still very sad. But then her mom and dad took her out into the backyard and said, "Emma, look over there. That garden is just for you." And her dad gave her a bucket full of fresh, rich soil, and he gave her a garden hose so that she could water the garden with fresh, clean water. And he said, "Emma, the sun and God are going to take care of the rest." So Emma walked into the garden, and the first tree she saw was a Japanese maple tree. Japanese maple tree, she walked up to it, and it looked very, very sad. Its leaves were kind of crumbly and brown, and it was almost drooping over like it didn't even want to get up in the morning. And Emma said, "Oh, maple tree, why are you so sad?" And then something amazing happened. The maple tree started to talk to her. He said, "I'll never be tall like the pine tree. I'm short. I'm squat, I'm stubby, so what's the point?" And with that, the maple tree began to weep, and little drops of water fell from its leaves. And Emma was really sad. So she walked over to the pine tree, expecting that the tall, majestic pine would be a happy tree, and she noticed as she got closer, the pine tree also looked very unhappy. Its needles were turning brown, it looked all dried out, and even its crown was bending over in the heat of the day. And Emma said, "Mr. Pine Tree, why are you so sad?" And with that, the pine tree began to talk and said, "Oh, little girl, where to begin with my troubles? All I've ever wanted is to have sweet fruit like the grapevine over there. But look at me. All I have are these hard, pointy cones. Nobody wants to eat a pine cone, so what's the point?" And with that, the pine tree began to weep sap out of its needles and cry. And Emma was like, "This garden is a mess." So she walked over to the grapevine thinking, well, at least the grapes will be happy, right? All grapes have to be happy. Well, she went over to the vine and she noticed something was terribly wrong with the grapevine, because the vine had turned dry and brittle, and the grapes were starting to turn into raisins. And she said, "Grapevine, what's the matter? Why are you so sad?" And the grapevine said, "All I have are these grapes, and they're turning into raisins. All I've ever wanted was flowers, but I'll never have flowers, so what's the point?" And with that, a lone grape fell from the branch onto the ground, and it let out a little wine. Thank you. Well, at that point, Emma was almost so dejected that she decided she was going to throw in the towel and give up on the garden. But then she saw, right there in front of her eyes, she had missed it all along, in the center of the garden, was this extraordinary golden sunflower. It was tall, it was regal, it was proud, and its golden crown was pointing to the sun. And as she walked up to the sunflower, it almost looked as if the sunflower was smiling at her. And the sunflower greeted her and said, "Good morning, little girl. What a beautiful day it is. The sun is shining, my favorite thing." And Emma said, "You're so happy." And the sunflower said, "Of course I'm happy." And Emma said, "Well, what's your secret? All the other plants in this garden are so sad." And the sunflower said, Listen, I was born a sunflower. All I will ever be is a sunflower. So I decided a long time ago I was going to be the most beautiful sunflower that I know how to be. And then Emma had an idea. She knew how to make her garden grow. She ran over to the Japanese maple and said, "Mr. Maple, you are supposed to be a maple tree. You're not a tall pine." And with that, all of a sudden, the brown leaves started to turn red, and the branches started to lift, and the maple turned into a proud Japanese maple tree. She ran over to the pine tree and said, "Mr. Pine Tree, it is so cool that you have pine cones. Only pine trees have pine cones, and a lot of people think they're really neat." And with that, the pine tree said, "You think so?" And Emma said, "Of course I think so." And the pine tree lifted its crown, and its brown needles turned green, and it was smiling at her. And then she ran over to the grapevine and said, "Listen up. You are a grapevine. Everyone loves grapes. Does anyone here like grapes? Everyone loves grapes." And Emma said, "I even know a rabbi who loves wine." And the grapevine said, "You think so?" And Emma said, "Of course I think so." And with that, the raisins became plump and juicy and sweet, and the grapevine began to grow tall and proud again. And Emma realized that day that all we need to do in life to make our garden grow is to be ourselves, because God made us exactly the way God wants us to be. So I have a challenge for us in the new year. Sometimes we're going to meet people and we're going to think, wow, I really wish that I had curly hair. I have always wanted curly hair, but all I got was this stick straight thing. I would like hair at all, but all I got was this. In the new year, can you say, before you complain, can you say, "That's exactly how I'm supposed to be, so I'm going to be the most beautiful version of myself that I know how to be"? Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.